Just trying to fit the piece in the corner here. I've been working on this for hours, many hours actually. I've got the right shape and the cut, but what I'm trying to do is to fit it for welding. So I want to get the gap between the original panel and the new one as close as I can. So it's a case of putting it on and taking it off. Now I've actually welded a piece on the edge of this panel to give me more room to do some temporary mounting. So I can screw it in, but because of the number of times I've taken it off, it's easier just to put the scribe through it. I've got a light behind so I can see whether I've got a gap on where the highs and the lows are. But at the moment it's all sitting just probably about 1 millimetre too high. Now the reason it takes so long is that you can't afford mistakes, so I can't afford to cut this too low or I've got a very large gap. Now the gap's probably not too much of a problem if I use a MIG, but I was thinking I might use a TIG to weld this panel in, but to use the TIG I've got to get a very close fit. So if I aim at trying to fit it with a TIG, then if I cut too much I can fall back on the MIG. So the gap doesn't matter as much with the MIG. In fact, it's probably better to have a small gap to make sure I've got penetration. So I keep going through, I look at this, I see how much I've taken off, and then out with the file. So I've been continuing to do this, filing it down. I'm not going to do it on the video, but I file that down, I recheck it, file it down, recheck it, and as I say, I'm about 1 millimetre out. The shape is right when I look at the even gap I've got. The shape is right, but I've got to take it down at least another millimetre. So it's got to drop at this front end here. It's just a case of continually filing. Now I could use some air tools to cut that down quicker. The problem with that is it just might be too quick, and before I know it I've taken too much metal off. So all I've been doing is I just run down just with a few runs and then recheck, and the process goes on and on and on until I can get the panel to fit properly. Now I've got, there's a Tech screw I can put in that, but problem with that is you screw it up, you unscrew it, you screw it up, it just takes longer. So it's still not quite right, a bit tied up around this end. So anyway, I'll keep going. It's not far off. When I get that set up properly, then I can start to, well initially I'll tack it in and then recheck everything else and make sure it's right, and then I'll start the welds. But still got a bit more. Now it's got a little bit more to take off here, and certainly more at the front end to drop it down more. Anyway, I'll keep going. It's taken a while to get these repairs finally welded in. The difficulty is just access to weld, getting the right position to weld. I wanted to TIG weld this main piece in here. I had to initially tack it with MIG and then run some TIG along through the weld. So and with TIG you need to get your position right, so that took a long while to do, but it's in. The everything's welded in place. This little one here is welded in place. I had to MIG that because of access. I haven't bothered to clean up the weld too much because that's all covered up inside, so I've left that a little bit proud on the outside. Up in here is all welded in place, that was all TIGged in, so it's complete, all of this. The only thing I'll add to that, this section here needs the hole for mounting the bumper bar. Now I've got to work out the exact position of that. I can't do that until I've closed up the panels in the rear, which I haven't done yet. What I was going to do was to put probably another little plate on the inside to strengthen that, where the bolt for the bumper bar comes through. It was originally shaped so the inner guard was very close to the outer panel, and when you put the repair section in you can't do that, so I'll put just probably a thin plate on the inside just to reinforce that. I don't know whether people do that, even whether it's necessary, but I'd be more comfortable if it had just a bit more strength in the corner there. So that's got to be done. What I'm going to do now is to work on this rear panel here that goes in here. It's got to be repaired. I've got the monocoque repair sections for that, so I've got to work on that to try and figure out where I'm going to make the final cut. But it hopefully won't be too bad. The intention is to TIG it at this stage, but I'll see how I go with that. I'm fitting this up ready for a TIG weld. I know some people, or I've seen some people use a plug weld to put this type of patch panel in. I've chosen not to do that. I guess the reason for that is that I've actually taken this panel off. Now, a lot of the times where I've seen the plug welding in, this panel is still in position, still welded to the car, and that's not the case with me. I can actually take, when I take the clamps off, I can take the panel off, I can get behind, I can planish the weld. So anyway, I'm TIG welding it, so I've just been setting the gap or removing the gap, as the case may be, with a TIG weld. I've pretty well got it now. A couple of little places I've got to clean up with a file, but when I'm certain that's right, then I'll start to tack this in place with TIG, and the intention is to TIG it all the way around, so that's the intention. Now, whether I blow a hole in it, which is quite possible, I may be using MIG to fill the holes, but I'll see how I go. I've finished welding the patch panel in. I TIG welded it in. It was easy enough to planish because the panel comes off, so the finish is not too bad. There's no distortion that I can feel there. The panel will just require a very thin skim of filler over that to seal it up, so that's okay. The final fit worked out alright. That's nice and tight around the edge. There'll be minimal filler in the sealer on the inside, so that's fine. I'm not putting this panel in just yet. What I'll do now is to go to the other side and make the repairs to that, the same repairs I've done here, although they're not quite as extensive on the other side. Also not welding this panel in yet. I've just used Clecos and tech screws to hold in place, and I won't do that until I've actually finalised the other side. Now this side doesn't have quite the same amount of damage as the other. This panel here, it's only really the top end of it, so that's not too bad. The little panel in the corner, well, that's got to be replaced, same as the other side. The inner panel, the inner guard, doesn't seem to be as badly damaged, nor is the panel on the outside, but I will need to take the top edge of it off just to ensure that it's all okay. So I will be putting a patch panel on the outside, albeit a lot smaller. So I need to just start cutting things open at the moment to find out how far I have to cut back. So I'll probably trim this off and then start working on doing an initial repair to that panel first.